Hey folks, Brandon Vigliarolo with the Register, and I'm here today with David Schlissel, Director of Resource Planning Analysis at the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis, to talk about a paper he co-authored that found that small modular nuclear reactors, or SMRs, aren't living up to their hype. David, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to give you kind of a quick, just make sure I got it right when I wrote my story yesterday, right? So basically, it seems like SMRs, basically, they're all these projects are running into problems of cost overrun, time delay, and people questioning whether or not they're a good investment, which basically all seems to mean that they're not going to be able to play a viable role in our transition away from fossil fuels. Is that an accurate kind of summary of the paper?
That is an accurate summary of our report.
Mm-hmm.
We believe there are serious risks, financial risks associated with investing in SMRs, cost risk, a schedule risk about when they will be available.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe there are less expensive alternatives that could be implemented a lot sooner. Renewables, battery storage, some forms of geothermal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of alternatives, right, that are also being developed alongside this kind of new technology. Now, I know I was actually startled by one of the figures that was in that paper. I think it said like there were 4 or 3 active reactors and one that's currently being built, right? And so none of them, right, they were all promised to be 3-4 year projects, and they've all been 10 plus. Right. And the same seems to go for the money, right? They tell you one budget item, and then as time goes on, it just keeps getting more expensive to the point where, like you said, these things are just eating up a massive amount of money and time. I know I've read other criticisms of SMRs and other projections of the energy transition. And I've seen some people saying, SMRs aren't going to be ready to meet a large capacity for 10 years. Your report says you don't think they're going to be ready in 15. Right. Do you have an idea of when you think SMRs will be ready for wide scale rollout, or?
We don't have a set time.
Uh-huh.
The problem is there's no set design, or there's no licensed.
Mm-hmm.
There's no NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission granted license for any of the projects.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them involve new technologies that have either not been tried before or that have tried and been failed. It's all up in the air, and there's so much hype about SMRs that contradicts the past history of the nuclear industry.
Right.
A history of major cost overruns and years-long schedule delays. So promoters of SMRs and promoters of large reactors as well want everyone to forget about the past. This time it's going to be different, but there's no evidence from which you can believe that.
Right. And looking at those past, and even the most recent project, what was it? Can't remember the name of the reactor in Georgia that just came online not too long. Yeah. And that was years and years and billions of dollars overrun, right? It was a huge overrun project. I mean, do you think that this indicates, the fact that we're running into the same problems with SMRs so early in the sort of deployment of this technology? Do you think we're learning? Do you think this is an early kind of, see, we're doing it again kind of moment where we can say nuclear energy as a whole might not be, it might kind of be a dead end, like in terms of efficiency and cost and time. What do you think about nuclear as a whole?
I would rephrase the way you put it.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're at the train crossing and the signals of the arms are going red, 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 and the bell's going off.
Mm-hmm.
And the nuclear industry and the Department of Energy says, oh, no problem.
Yeah.
It'll be better the next one. That's what they're doing now. They're gaslighting about the Vogtle project,
mm-hmm.
which was 7 years late,
mm-hmm.
just finished 7 years late, and had a $22 billion cost overrun. So rather than admit to the problems, the DOE celebrated Vogtle last week, mm-hmm. and is now running around saying, well, the next reactor will be 30% cheaper. But when asked, give us the data on which that claim is based, they said, oh, it's proprietary. We can't tell you the data. We can't give you the data. I mean, it's outrageous. They want to make policy decisions, spend hundreds of billions of your money and my money, and not tell us what's the basis for this claim it's going to be cheaper. And that's the history of the nuclear industry.
Right. So you think as a whole, maybe the whole nuclear industries, SMRs, are they another sort of false start? You think? I mean, it's a technology that isn't going to ultimately amount to much. There's too much going.
I can't read the future that well.
Yeah, that's fair.
What I can say is the projects they're proposing now will cost a lot more than they say, and will take a lot longer to build. How well they're run, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have the time to mess around with this.
Right.
We need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as fast and as cheaply as we can. And nuclear power plants, whether large or small, don't fit into that. So
to that end, because like I've written a couple articles in the past few years. I think the IAEA, of course, it's an Atomic Energy Association, but I think the IEA has said as well that they saw nuclear plants as a maybe not a stopgap, but sort of as an intermediary between turning off fossil fuel production and adding more renewables to the grid. Do you think that existing nuclear plants, I mean, do you not think that existing nuclear plants should be part of the energy transition equation? Or,
I think that where existing plants are managed well, that they can continue operate. They can continue operating and provide a minor role in the transition.
Right.
But the question of building new ones is just, it's going to be a tremendous waste of money and a waste of time. There's the opportunity cost for the tens or hundreds of billions of dollars we may provide, we meaning the federal government,
right,
and other governments provide to build reactors. They could get a lot more renewables, storage, etc., energy efficiency in place a lot sooner.
Now, I guess, I as someone who's kind of, a green energy transition proponent myself, right? I follow the solar industry. I follow a lot of renewable news and stuff, and I see, on occasion, maybe more than an occasion, right? I see people pushing back and saying, well, renewable technology isn't mature either. Solar is still too expensive. Hydroelectric, disturbs environments, natural environments. There's all kinds of drawbacks to these renewables too. Do you think that the renewable power industry has the technology and the sort of network, the infrastructure in place to get this stuff deployed now? Is it ready for prime time?
I believe it's ready for prime time. It's performing prime time in California and Texas. And with the amount of batteries, the megawatts of battery capacity that's been installed, mainly in those two states, but other places in the U.S. as well, they're ready for prime time.
Yeah, cool. So I guess you're envisioning a future that's more of a let's hurry up and get these renewables deployed and get them on the grid, right? Do what we need to do to get these on the grid and stop wasting money on on these SMRs that we still haven't been proven to function, or haven't proven to be not necessarily function, but haven't proven to be as feasible as they should be.
Yes, and I'm not against doing research.
Right, of course.
Actually not against building one or two of the designs. Let's see how expensive it really is. Let's see what lessons can be learned, and let's see how well they operate. But that's not what the government is doing. The government is running to give out money to lots of different startups, for both big and small utility, reactors now, without knowing or having a sense of which are going to work.
Right.
And that's going to be very, very expensive. And as I say, it's going to miss out on the opportunity cost of spending that money more wisely.
Yeah.
Research,
Yeah.
fine. Build a
Yep.
couple. If they want to build a couple, I mean, the only problem with that is we still have no place to put the reactor waste.
Right. Right. That's one
And
other
for
thing
some
everyone
of
always
the
thinks about, right?
design-
There's still waste that comes out of these things, right? It's yeah.
and for some of the designs, we don't even have the fuel. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's called HALU,
Yep.
HAL.
I've written about that too. There was a
Actually,
Microsoft or a Gates-backed project up. I think in maybe Idaho that was all but ready to stand up, except that it didn't have any of the fuel because
well, no,
the supply lines.
it's not ready to stand up.
Oh, it's not okay.
Gates claimed first that it would be online in 2028, which was a joke. It was just ridiculous. Never that fast. Then, when Russia invaded Ukraine, they announced, well, it'll be 2 years later because we can't rely on Russia for the fuel. And it's a good excuse. Hey, instead of the Gates reactor design not being ready, let's blame it on the Russians.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's blame it on the fact we can't get fuel from Russia.
Yep. And meanwhile, right, all this power or all this money keeps being invested in these things that aren't ready, and we're not moving any closer to transitioning away from fossil
Interestingly, a large consulting firm's analysis of SMRs done for large industrial customers in Norway found that the Gates reactor is unlikely to be in service until 2040. Whereas Gates says we're going to build it in 4 years. It'll be available in 2030, 2032. It's all hype. It's
hype.
Really all hype.
Yep. And we still don't have
the actual data from the DOE. They say, "Oh, we've got it, but we can't show it to you."
Yeah. And in the meantime, right, not a single one of these things has yet to be built on U.S. soil, so we still don't know how much it would cost in U.S. time and money. So, David, thanks for taking the time to talk through this with me. Very interesting paper. I'll make sure to link to it in my article or link to my article that I've written, so that people can read the whole thing and get more of a picture of the SMR future. So, David, thanks again for joining me.
It's fun talking to you. Happy to come back again.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always, when we learn more about the latest SMR news, you can read about it on the Register.